Okay, so we got one of our wing sides here. I've already prepped this wing. What you're going to want to do is you're going to take a pencil and you're going to want to score these airfoil lines. So I just flatten them out. Okay, pretty simple there. On the leading edge, this is what the leading edge looks like. There's your leading edge. You're going to want to bevel it on both sides. There's a bunch of different methods to doing this. I find it easy to bevel on both sides. I have one here that I'll show. So I did this one side, you're going to need to do both. So you can see this side here is not beveled. Take a knife, extend it out, put on a 45-degree cutting both this way and this way, so all I have to do is just slide it back. The one thing I don't want to do is I don't want to go too far into the other foam board so where I cut the seam and I have holes in the seam. If you put holes in the seam, that's okay. All you have to do is just throw some packaging tape on that leading edge. You don't want any holes on this side, that's what I meant. So if you poke a hole in there, don't worry about it. Throw a packaging tape on the front of it and you're good to go. Okay, but that gives us free movement, right? I can work it a little bit. Okay, and that gives us that leading edge to complete. On this side here, we want to rip this whole channel out. So just like on this wing here, we have this channel completely ripped out. So I want to do the same thing. By doing that, I simply run a X-Acto knife and I just recut the lines. I don't go all the way through, just enough to score them. You can see I already peeled this side. But I just pinch it here. Sometimes I put my finger behind it and I just grab it and I just start lifting it out. And just rip it all the way out. There, now we have this channel cleaned out. What that channel allows us to do is take our piece of foam here and create some depth here so we can form our airfoil. So we have that piece there. We have this cut out. This is just another piece that we just pop out. This is for our servo control horn. There's a bunch of different ways to do your servos. I'll show you that in the next video for electronics. But this wing has this channel cut out. Our leading edge has been beveled. We've got these airfoil lines already scored. And now we have our control surface. As you can see on this one, has been already prepped. I've cut out the 1/8" spacers there so they allow the control surface to be free. And then I only bevel one side. You could bevel both sides, but then you're just risking cutting holes in your control surface. I like to just do one side. I get enough movement by just doing one side. If you feel that you need to strengthen your control surface and you have some holes, once again, just like the leading edge, you can take some packaging tape and run packaging tape along that seam and be good to go. There's also some different strategies too for the inside part. This inside part, you could have this tear away from each other. You could easily just throw a little bit, I'm talking a little bit of glue, all the way across the front here. I didn't use a whole lot, just enough, and you get some scrap here, just enough to spread that out over that seam. That'll keep this seam from separating in flight. So say if you have a bad landing, it'll keep it from actually splitting away from the paper and the foam. So when I do that, right, I can still move it. Moving's fine, it's just it just shores up that seam. Okay, so this wing is pretty much done. So how do we do this one? Once again, take your X-Acto knife. I lightly score my laser cut. I don't cut all the way through, and I break it. Okay, once I've broke it, move it off to the side. Once again, get my 45, and then I run my 45 across the control surface hinge. Okay? That takes practice. Grab some scrap foam board and just work on your bevel cuts before you do your final. Once again, throwing down a thin bead across the hinge line. Taking scrap, I'm just going to flatten that stuff out, or flatten that bead out to give you a nice, strong hinge. Once again, no holes on this side. Did a good job on my bevel. Okay, you're gonna see some burn marks here and there. Don't worry about that. That's just part of the laser. But this wing is prepped. Okay, along with your wing, you're gonna have a couple other parts here. The first part is you're gonna see these guys. These are gonna be your spacers to help out with your wing, doing the dihedral for it. So I just double them up. The little glue here, smash them. They're little helpers. You don't need them, but they're just little helpers that you can use. Put these off to the side. All right, so you're gonna get another couple of doublers here. These are going to help with the airfoiling. You're gonna notice that you got two that are big here, and then you have one that's smaller. If you want to, you can always write down what's what, but this goes in, the smaller one goes in the middle section, and these two go out in your wing. With this piece here, you're gonna notice that we've cleaned out these channels already. This channel is the same as these channels here on the wing. Just pinch and pull them out. Both these have been prepped, so we take these two out. And all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna throw a bead of glue going down this, and then of course, for good measure, just down the channel a little bit. And I'm gonna sandwich those together. Okay, once I have that, go ahead and this top piece folds over. Notice too how much glue I'm using. It's not a whole lot. You don't want to spill over, burn yourself, get it on the tables. It's just enough, right? So there's one done. Same thing for this side. All right, so we got our two pieces there. Now this one is, once again, I didn't do this one just so I can show you. But what I like to do is I like to put my finger right on the back side here, and I pinch it here. And then it gives me something to push on the other side to help me pinch this off. If you notice, I'm not using any tools. So if you're using tools to cut this out, you're working too hard. All right, so now this one goes over like this. So this is the only change I'm gonna do on this main middle spar here. So this middle form goes in the middle of your wing. We need to strengthen this up. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna take just a barbecue skewer. That's all you really need. Throw some glue down the center here. Throw some glue on this top. I'm actually going to put that barbecue skewer right there, and I'm going to fold it over. With it right in the middle. Didn't measure anything crazy. I didn't try to put it center. I just throw that spar, that little barbecue skewer right on that seam. That's going to really help your middle spar. Your middle spar takes on the most weight during flight. Whenever you do wing load, it's going to put the most stress on that section there. Now we're going to fuse our wing together. So now we get both our wings here. They're both been prepped. I'm going to double check to make sure, yep, I've got everything cleaned out. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this thing. And I'm going to line it up. Might be a little off from you guys here, so I'll just try to line up as best I can. Okay. Take some tape, take some packaging tape, line it up as best I can. Okay, and then I'm going to come on. Okay. Put some tape right down on this. Man, it is separating like crazy, so you might need some weight. Doing it for long. You're gonna grab yourself a friend here. Have your friend hold the other side. This is just gonna help with the seam here. And then I'm going to leave this, even though it's probably easier just to do it right now. Just cut that hole back out. This hole right here is for all your guts. for your plane. So when we start doing the electronics, this will be where you spit out all your electronics. It doesn't have to be. There's not a right or wrong answer to how you want to do that. But this one is, I definitely want to cut off right here. And then on this side, just take it, and eventually I'll close it, but I don't want to do that just yet. So I'm going to split it here. So once I split it, I'm going to throw some glue down the seam here. Just to there. Take my overlap, just cover that up. Just grabbing some scrap. Okay, so now I got a seam here that'll keep me together. Next part is I'll just start working from the top down. Grab our 3 pieces that we made earlier. Okay, so we have our 2 long ones, and then we have our 1 shorter one. I'm going to go with the short one first. You're going to notice here that you're going to have 2 hidden faint lines here. Those are for your servos to be placed. It's also your servo channels. With my shorter one, I've got my barbecue skewer in there. It just gives me a lot stronger spar. I'm going to throw glue just in between those 2 faint lines and go ahead and smash it down in there. And I'm putting it right smack dab in the center, in between both this airfoil line and this airfoil guide line, and right in between my 2 servo markings. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side with my other spars. Doesn't matter what side of the spar that you're putting down. Any side works. Same thing on this side. Finding my servo spacing lines and just putting it right next to it. And making sure that these are nice smack dab in the middle, as you see here. Okay, now so you guys can see it. This back side, this whole piece is going to be glued down here. This is going to help relieve some of the stress on our airfoil that we make. So all I'm going to do is just run a bead this whole entire way. And then, of course, throw some in the channel for good measure. Work the center first, back out, and the rest should be easy. Sometimes it's nice to have 2 hands, 2 sets of hands on this. Making sure that I'm careful on how I am rubbing my hands against the foam board. Those laser cut foam boards can be very, very sharp. So you can get a lot of paper cuts if you're not, if you're not paying attention. Okay, that's looking pretty good, right? So what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to help form the wing. Okay? Yeah, that's looking really good. Yeah, that looks good. Now this wing is not really meant to have a dihedral. I mean, it can. And we can put a little one in it. That's okay too. But if you notice, like I pretty much sandwiched that thing to where it's just going to make a straight wing. So there's not really any dihedral. But if you want to put dihedral in it, you're going to have to make a little slit, but we'll go over that here in a second. All right, so this next part, I'm going to do a faint line inside my airfoil guidelines here, okay, of glue. I'm just going to throw some glue in there. I'm going real light all the way down. This glue is going to help with my airfoil formation. Once again, it's not a lot. It's just enough to help it form. Take that and I'm going to flatten it just like that all the way down. I'm not gluing it together yet. I'm just helping the airfoil shape. This will help with my gluing later. All right, so then when I release it, you can see it's not gluing. However, if you can see it though, it already formed my airfoil. I don't know if you can see that, but my wing is now shaped. So it's gonna make gluing a lot easier once I pull it down. Now, at this point, there's a couple different options. You can leave the wing as is and move on to the next piece. For the servos. But if you really wanted to, you can glue this thing down right now and still deal with servos and electronics later. For the sake of this build, I'm going to leave this wing as is because I want to insert my servos here first and work with my channels first before I close this thing up and have a little bit hard time dealing with the wires. Now you're going to be okay, so you could do your servos here, run your wires out here. Later if you want to cinch it up like this. If you want to cinch it up, throw glue on top of this form here, this form here, this form here, and all along this back side of your trailing edge. And then what you do is you bring it back and you just hold it. Two people on it, just holding it down, right? And just leave it. But for this particular build, I'm going to leave as is because I want to have some room and some openings for my wings or for my electronics. So at this point in time, I'm going to protect my wing. I'm going to go ahead and put some tape on here if I can get this thing open. Jeez. Put a simple blue tape there. This is all in the plastic, the tape part there so that I don't rip the paper. But there you go, there's your wing. And I'm going to put this aside and start working on the fuselage. All right, so on this piece, we're starting to work on the fuselage. This one's easy to work with. This is gonna be your battery tray and flight controller tray. You're gonna notice on these builds that you're gonna have directions on A folds and B folds. And A fold is what's called an above fold. And so what happens is you're going to take the side here and you're going to hold it and lift it up and it's going to go above the foam. Okay, so there's your above folds. Okay, so you got to pay attention to that because you can easily just go what's called a B fold. So you'll see the B folds. The B folds are besides folds. So you're going to take the foam and you're going to go besides the other foam, and that's what we don't want to do. So we want to go on top as an A fold. Now for this piece, I've already cleaned out the channels, right? Our pinch method, pulling out, popping out all the foam boards. Okay, that piece is here. This is to kind of support our batteries. This one's easy to do. Just throw some glue down the center here. This just gives us a little cushion. If you want to, you can get I think you have to kind of create a standard there. I think most of the batteries have foam on it. So you take the rough end, and the rough end just goes right on top of your, there. This is where your battery's going to sit on. You're going to glue that piece right inside here somewhere. And then, of course, with this, you're going to also have your apex battery straps, but we'll get to that here in a second. Let's go ahead and make this. Sometimes when you make these wall joints with the A's or B folds, sometimes it's nice to have a little 90-degree tool to kind of help you with this process to keep your pieces nice and straight. You don't want to be crooked. So this is an above fold. I'm going to go ahead, and when I throw glue down these channels, I don't put it all the way to the end. I kind of throw a little bit of glue because I know that's going to smash to the end, and then throw down the channel because I don't want it to spill out on my workbench. I also don't want it to spill out and burn me. Okay, so this is our above fold. Okay, we definitely want to make sure that we are above. I'm just holding my 90 here along the way while it's drying. And do the same thing for the other side. So we got both our sides glued now. You could throw another bead of glue on the inside just to help strengthen this. This is also a very high use area. Some people like to take some glue and just kind of throw it on the edge here to strengthen these, because your nose cone goes on and off on this section a lot. So I just put a little bit of glue there. And I just run, not my finger because that would hurt and be crying. Just strengthen up that foam board so that you don't get any foam boards that kind of split away from, or the paper split away from the foam. All right, now to show you that there's no right or wrong way to build this thing, you could have easily put this on there already. For me, I'm gonna do it this way. Make sure I got a good healthy bead of glue around all edges, because sometimes you might get a board that might be a little warped. So you want it to be cinched down pretty good. These holes should line up. So put them right on the holes. That's going to be where you want to put them. So once I have that pretty well glued, I'm going to go ahead and put some pressure down on it. And there's your board. It's kind of nice because you're going to cinch in your battery straps. Your battery straps will destroy the foam board, so that's why we have the wood piece here. So when you guys look to design your planes, think about ways to strengthen your foam board. Doesn't matter which side is which. I'm just going to put them through here. Actually, change that up. Let's do this way. So I have these here. And then, for the most part, your batteries are going to be towards the front of the plane. Like that. Back on the other side. Shoot through. Other side. Shoot through. Now before I glue those down, now that I have these here, I'm going to take my piece. This is what's going to help me go in the middle here. Throw some glue down. Making sure I'm staying centered here, because I don't want to like cover up holes if I need to make last minute adjustments. Now if you don't have this Velcro, that's okay. Your strap downs have these rubber backings, and then they'll really cinch that battery down, but for just some extra measure, have that Velcro down, put the softy on your battery. Put the softy on your batteries if it doesn't already have them, and that battery won't move. There you go. So your battery tray for flight controller piece is complete. With your battery, if you do receive a battery that doesn't have one, the easiest way to do this is typically you like to have, you go this way with your battery lead going back, or you can do it on this side. It really doesn't matter. Whatever you do, choose a side where you don't cover up the markings, because we do like to see the markings. I'm just going to do on the bottom here. Go right down the whole entire thing. Right? So then I can put that on there and we're set to go. Our next piece is going to be the back side of your fuselage. On this one we're going to have 3 parts. You're going to have what is called your ESC tray. I went ahead and prepped this part already, taking out both these channels. This is an A-fold. We'll get to that here in a second. This is going to be act as a doubler for the front of the fuselage. This will help with our nose cone installation. This is also an A-fold. And we have our centerpiece here. It's got a lot of instructions on there. Let's start from this side and we'll work our way to the right. On this one it says remove foam only. Take your X-Acto knife, pierce that, and just break that piece off. It's not coming off completely, but all I'm going to do is I'm going to rip off the paper if I can. Can't be perfect. As you see, I ripped off that part. It's okay. I'm going to keep this for scrap though. Same thing for this one. Okay, remove it back. Lightly pinch and remove that foam. Okay, and then I'm going to take this one. This one's a little smaller. I'm going to kind of help break it. You got this big door now. We wouldn't change this door. This door was a lot smaller, so this is a lot bigger now. But it's also going to be a lot more fragile when you build it, so just be careful. So I'm going to kind of open up that channel here. And then I'm going to try to pinch this out. Just like that. Okay, do the same thing for these middle pieces. Just working that seam so I can pinch it easy. These holes, you just cut them. They have little bridges on them. Pop them out. I'm just going to pop these out. This is our door, our access door on the side of the fuselage. I'm going to leave it closed. Okay, if you notice on this side, I can still cut it here. And it'll open up perfectly for you when you're ready. This will help you get access to your flight controller if you need to. But for right now, I'm just going to leave it closed. So that's the access bay. This one, same thing. And our last piece is this last, says remove foam only. Take it again and remove the foam. Okay, this piece is prepped. Might not look pretty, right? Doesn't mean I go print out another piece. We're okay. All right, this is that front piece. This is our A-fold, so I'm gonna go above. So this is once again the doubler for the nose cone. How that'll work is it'll go on this piece here. You won't see it, but on your build you will. There's lines here. It's going to get glued right alongside here. You'll notice that it comes out a little bit. Okay, that's going to help our nose cone grab onto something when it slides on. You can't really go wrong with this. If you have it too far back though, it won't work. But if you have it too far forward, you're going to be okay. I like to get it right over this hole, and there's a line here to help guide that. That just gives you an extra foam board to put in for barbecue skewers for your wings later. This is the ESC bay. Same thing, above fold. We'll do that on both sides. Alright, so we got both our walls up on our fuselage, looking pretty good. Okay, what I went ahead and did is I went ahead and got a piece of paper or tape that was a little bit more than the length from this part here to here. That's going to help with this first overlay here. So here's our top cage. That top cage is a B fold, so if I look here, it's a B fold, so it's going to go besides. So it's going to go flat here, and then it's going to tie it all in. And then these pieces are going to wrap around, and that's why I was going to do a tape just to kind of help with that process. I'm not going to do this all at once. It's going to be a real pain in the butt to do it all at once. So I'm going to do a besides fold first on this side. I'm going to throw some glue down here, not a lot. Throw some glue down this part here, because I'll still have some flexibility with the build to do this nice. So I'm just going to do this side first, so I'm not fighting it. And to help it glue on that side, I'm going to kind of squeeze on this side here just to kind of help with it. Be careful, it could be kind of hot. But remember, this is a B fold, so it's besides, so it's nice and flat. So on this one, you'll notice I've got a little bit of play here, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw a bead of glue around the side wall here, because this is what's going to go on the inside. And then I'm also going to throw some on the tape, or on the paper. Because I'm going to smash this paper out once I get this side here. So I'm going to put it on the side. Okay, and then when I do that, I'm going to take some foam board and I'm going to work this as best I can. And I'm going to work it over, starting from the middle, just work it over. If you notice, I don't have a whole lot of glue spilling out. I'm just working it over and over and over again. And if you want to, you can take that extra piece of tape here and just use that tape as a way to cinch that down. You don't have to. I just like nice smooth edges. And that will really help close that joint. With this extra piece here, I'm just going to take my X-Acto knife and just cut along the foam board using my foam board as my straight edge. There we go. Nice and straight. Cool. Next I'm going to take my doubler. You know, you're not going to be able to see this in the video, but there are lines on inside here that tells you where to stop and where to put this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and just put in there right now just to dry fit it. It's in there just like this. And it'll stop about right there. I check inside here because I want to make sure it goes over these holes. I want these holes to act as a doubler, so I want to kind of go back a little bit. Probably about right there. And if you want to, you can take a pencil and just kind of draw a line if you want to kind of help you No, the hay. I'm gonna go that deep inside that part there. So as you go to push this thing in, right, with the glue, I don't glue all the way to the edge. So I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go to about right, like halfway here. Same thing here. Even though this part's gonna get exposed. And do the same thing on this side. Okay. Go ahead, feed it in. Smear it till I get to that point, to the line, and then help it by holding both the sides. See how I'm talking about? You didn't need to do it there. And all I'm doing is a hold on both sides. So with that glued in, this is a high use area, okay? Meaning that that nose cone is going to slide in and off of this. So I'm going to go ahead, just like I did on this bottom piece here, I'm going to go ahead and strengthen up this leading edge here. So I'm going to take some glue. Make sure I run it on the top here. And just run my scrap just like that, so I can get it nice and strong. Get off, get off. I'm getting glue on my hands. It doesn't burn. If you don't put a whole lot down on the foam board, it doesn't hurt. If you do get it on your fingers, a good trick is just to rub your fingers real quick with the glue. It won't hurt. Alright, so after I clean that part up, that looks pretty good. You can also do the same thing for around here. But for the sake of the build, I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay, on this back side, this is our ESC tray. Our ESC tray has a tongue and groove. That tongue and groove goes in the back here, just like this, underneath, and then up through, and it goes into your two tongue and groove pieces. Okay, right here. Then we take our nice finishing paper and it goes over that piece there. Okay, so I'm going to pop this thing out, slide it out. Same thing, I'm going to throw glue on the side here. Ooh. I'm running out of battery. Yeah, it's a spare battery.
Can I stop real quick?
I think I'm good. I'm going to throw a little bit on this side right here. Okay. And I'm going to take that, slide it underneath. And act kind of fast. If not, you're going to get stuck. I'm going to hold it just like that. Make sure it's nice and straight up in that. And then hold it. Just like that. So now that we've got our ESC tray in there, you'll notice you've got a couple different bays in the back here. This bay down here is going to be for your boom insert. We're going to build that next. Up here is going to be your ESC tray. So your ESC is just going to sit right on there. It doesn't have to, but it's just a part of it. It also acts as a doubler to keep the fuselage tight. And then this space is just open. Okay, gives nice airflow to all the electronics. All right, finishing touches on your back ESC plate. I'm going to throw some glue on one side at a time so I can work it. Just like that. Be careful, it could be hot. If it's hot like that, then you can just take a scratch piece and just flatten it out. Just like that. Fuselage is looking pretty good. All right, now what you can do is we have a nice open bay here, but if you want it to be bigger, you can easily just take this part out. I'm just going to do that just for the sake of this first build. I'm going to use this, my other piece, as a kind of like my buffer or my cutting line. and use this to cut out this piece. Instead of my fingers, take your scratch piece. And you can work all these because your hands are going to go in and out of this thing a ton. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go in and force bevel. Be careful on this part, you can bend it. Bevel all the corners and make it so that it's dull, so I can run my finger across it. This is just more of a safety thing because you don't want, over time you're going to go in this hole a bunch, so you just want to cut yourself up. Your fuselage is almost done. Next up, barbecue skewers. These barbecue skewers are going to be where you're going to attach your wings to. Okay, they go in 2 different locations. I got 2 different ones. I like to use 2 brand new ones. On the side here, you've got 1 hole here, 1 hole here, and the same thing on the side. I'm going to take this and run it through the pointy part first. Okay, and do that on both sides. Okay, once I do that, I can easily find the other hole, run that out to, I don't know, I usually like a fingertip for me, it's like 1 inch. Same thing on this side, run it out to about 1 inch. Okay. Just roll it. Just cuts off pretty easy. Do the same thing on the front. Now having that double in there really helps. It's nice and strong. Okay, this piece is not going to be long enough for anything. It could be a tool later on, so I might just keep it. Alright, so now we get our next piece here and just kind of do the same. Just mark it off. Okay, take it in here. On the other side. There, got our inch on both sides there. And you can cut these down. If it's too long for you and you want to go shorter, you can do that too. Nice. So this one's going to be interesting because you are going to need your, we'll do that later. We'll be fine. Okay, so the next piece is your motor mount. So we get this piece here, we got a B-fold, B-fold. I've already went ahead and cleaned out the channels. We also have this piece, this is our front cover. Okay, this one had paper on the front of it. I just simply pulled the paper off. Okay, when I do that, I can grab a glue gun or a glue slug and just run it down the middle of this thing. And that'll help curve it. Put a little pressure on the back here. Alright, now we got ourselves a nice curved piece. Removing that paper just helps. Helps with curving. Doesn't leave any creases. So I'm going to work this piece first. This is going to be our cover that'll go on the front of this. So I'm just going to put this off to the side for right now and start working on this. Alright, B full, so besides. Okay. Besides. You're going to do the same thing for the other side. Okay, so now that you have both your sidewalls up, you're going to take your top flange here. This is just going to kind of help secure this piece together. This is also a B-fold. So I'm going to throw some glue down there. I'm also going to throw some glue on this top piece, but I'm also going to throw some glue on the side. Just for the foam board to sit. It's besides. So work it down, and then of course the paper part just sits flat right there. I'm going to put a little bit of pressure on that just to hold it in place. You just hold that until it's dry. Alright, so this next piece, this is the cover. This piece goes on the top here. What I like to do is, you don't need to, but if you want to, you can get some little helping hands. I get some blue tape. Any type of forming, foam board forming, I like to have some helping hands here. The big part, so you have 2 parts here. So you have this, it's kind of not really in the middle, it's towards the front. This goes down to the bottom. So this will go down towards here. The excess is what you're going to cut off. Okay. Alright, so what I'm going to do here, this is a besides fold. So it's pretty much the paper is doing all the heavy lifting. I'm going to try to throw a bead of glue at a 45 on both the foam board and the paper. Okay, with the short part down, okay, I'm going to start to work this along the whole edge. See how it pops? So we get our helping hands here. Helping hands come and put that front part down for us. So now I have more hands to work the foam board up the back. Same thing. Get that. Get that. I'm just going to work the foam board so you guys can see it. I'm just kind of working it with my hand. If I don't like that feeling, if you don't like that feeling, then you can come in and press it down with an extra piece. We're looking nice and straight. Alright, so I went ahead and took off the helping hands. I like to sure this part up, so I'll take some glue and just glue on the front here. Take some scrap, 45 that. It's nice and clean. Now you're gonna have this excess part right here. Okay, you can take a long, if you hold it nice and flat here, you can even hold it on the lines. I don't know if you can see the lines on the blackboard. But if I go nice and long, right, I can score it first. Just try to go as straight as I can. And then do it again until you've got yourself a nice clean part. Now when you guys put your motor on here, and we'll go over this later, that motor, there's some markings in here to show you where your motor placement needs to be. You want that motor as high and as flush to this as possible. This actually has an angle to it that's going to help your prop angle. So once you build your power pod with your motor, it's going to go in there. You'll see your markings, but it's going to go flush with this as high as you possibly can, so that your prop doesn't hit your boom. Okay, now it's time to insert this thing. When we insert it, I'm going to dry fit it first. It's going to go all the way, and it's going to go underneath that little tab there. So I'm going to kind of work it in there a little bit, and I'm going to move it all the way. And it's going to keep going all the way until you are flush. Okay, it needs to go a little more. Push, push. Almost friction fit right there. Okay, so the body shape of the aircraft actually fits with the design itself as best you can. Now there's going to be a little bit, so I need to come out a little bit. That's probably good enough. So you're going to have like 1/8 of an inch here on both sides that you're going to see that the motor mount sits. Now if you go too far in, that's okay. If you go too far out, you're going to be okay for a certain extent. But the CG and everything has already been figured out if the motor is placed right here. This is very strong friction fit. I don't need to glue this in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the outer side and glue it from the outskirts in, because it's going to be almost impossible to glue it and throw it back in. So I'm going to go on this part here and glue that flange there. The exposed part here, I'm going to go ahead and glue on the bottom here. There's just enough of this part that is out that I can glue the part on. Same thing goes for the outside. Okay. Same thing goes for the inside here. And this outer piece. I've kind of gone all around all the corners that's exposed that I can help get this to. Okay. All right, with that said, take your barbecue skewer and poke it through, and now you can put that back barbecue skewer in. And glue it into place. Okay, so we're gonna work on the nose now. I already prepped this part, cleaned out these two channels. This is a B fold, so they're gonna be beside each other. You can go ahead and prep this part too. So this is, I don't know, there's a bunch of people that do this differently. I find it easier to rip off the paper, and so I just slowly just start to peel the paper off. I've already worked this section. You can tell I'm not perfect, right? I still have some pieces here. And it's okay if you kind of dent up the foam board a little bit on the inside. No one's gonna see it. Okay, I just started peeling up in this part. Just gonna work around here. I'm just trying to get as much of the paper off as I can. It'll help me when it comes to forming this piece. So I just grab it and I just pull the paper off. Some of them will be easier than others. But just try to get as much off as you possibly can. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just take something like a pencil or something and just kind of roll the foam board on the inside. You can also use the edge of the table. This is just gonna help you when it comes to rolling the nose of your aircraft. What you're trying to do is you're trying to eliminate any creases on the outside here. Just continue to work it. It's going to make gluing a lot easier for you. Once again, if you leave the foam board on there, it will, if you don't use helping hands, it'll be hard. It'll want to pop off a lot. Okay, there's my piece. This one, we're going to go ahead and glue both sides, or work both sides. This is a besides fold. So inside, and we're going to hold it there. Different strategy here. Alright, so now that you have your nose cone prepped and ready to go, and you got your front of your nose prepped and ready to go, I also went ahead and got myself some helping hands. They're going to help me as I go and glue this thing along. So this is a B-fold, okay, so this part goes here first, and then what will happen is that it'll then start to work itself around the actual board. So I'm going to actually just glue this part down first. Flip it on the bottom, and then come in and just fit that in there right up against the piece there, if you can see it. This is going to help me kind of hold this thing down. And just like the other ones, if you want to, you can take some hefty tape and put it around the back side here. That'll keep that paper from peeling up on you. Okay, so if you notice here, if you do on this side, you can see it. Foam board just rides right up this thing. All it in. You're going to have some excess, just like the other one, so you can cut it. Got all my helping hands ready. I'm going to go ahead and work each section out separately. So two different sections, one on the bottom and one on the top. Don't try to do the whole thing at once. You're going to freak out. So I'm just going to put a bead of glue all the way up into the nose. Okay. Put it down. Grab some helping hands. Okay. Grab some helping hands. Try to do it so you guys can see it. Grab some more helping hands. Tightens it up. Some more helping hands. And continue to kind of put some pressure on it. Just kind of rocking it. Cool. All right. I'm going to help form it a little bit more. This is going to go over this leading edge here. Just like that. And dry fit it. Okay, come back again. Take my glue gun. And I'm going to put some on the actual paper itself here, because it's harder to get on the foam board. Here. And then I'm going to then go and put it on the rest of the foam board. Cool. Take it, run it down so I can get it nice and tight. Once I got it tight, helping hands, helping hands. Okay. Now it's nice and tight. I can take this, just kind of do some more helping hands. It's a little air duct here. That's looking pretty good. Now with the same thing, nice and long. I'm going to go ahead on some lines, both sides, to help me go from one line to the next. Score it so that piece is off. Use this for scrap or chuck it. Okay, these this is a high usage area again. Sometimes I like to throw a little bit of glue just on the inside here to strengthen up those joints, because that gets grabbed a lot. And this is easy tearaways. This one's gonna be stronger than this one, but I'll go ahead and do that for the whole entire top piece. Take my scrap, just work that front edge. With it dry, I should be able to take these pieces off now, my helping hands, and clean up your fuselage. Once you take them all off, I also like to take a foam board, and I like to just go like this along all the sides. What that does is it bevels the sides so that you don't get paper cuts. Alright, now we have both our fuselage pieces done. So what I went ahead and did, I just 45'd this front edge with a pencil or a barbecue skewer. Okay, cleaned up some of the excess stuff just to help with the fitting. And the same thing on this side, just kind of ran my finger, just kind of smashed the inside part of the shelf, the nose cone, so that it goes on a little bit nicer. And that is your fuselage. Okay, now onto the boom. So the boom, I went ahead and got these pieces cleaned out. You're gonna have 2 breakaway points here. Okay, this is gonna help you glue that on there. This part's not too bad. But it's an above fold. So we're gonna go above the foam board. Do one side first. Go above. And then just kind of hold it there with the 90 degrees. We'll do the same thing on the other side. So now I got those 2 sides up. I've got some helping hands again here just to help me with this piece. These go on the top, okay? So all I'm gonna do is take my glue gun and I'm gonna run a bead of glue and try to stay on the top here, all the way down. Come up, lift it up a little bit, just put it right down that glue. Take my helping hand, make sure I'm pinched down here at the bottom, and wrap it down there. But I'm also going to run along this thing too, and just make sure that my helping hands are helping me out here. This boom is super important. It could be a very weak spot on your aircraft as well. There's a lot of different ways to strengthen this. So you can do a couple different things. You can grab like barbecue skewers and line them up along this thing here, which will help. Or you can get some like old bow and arrow arrows that you can use that'll help strengthen it up. You won't add too much weight, but that'll help strengthen this boom up because you're going to put a lot of pressure on this boom. And so strengthening it up in some places is going to be key. So I'll do that after I have this. I got a couple of skewers that I'm just going to use to help with that part. Okay, so this next part you're going to see this push rod support. You're going to run up to the front and grab some black straws. These black straws just get inserted right inside there. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of glue down those channels. This helps because the push rods are so far on this one that you're going to want to provide some support for them. And this thing can go out in and out of this thing. You don't have to have it like perfectly inset. Be careful that you don't glue inside your holes because that will keep your push rod from going in and out properly. Same thing, glue this down. Just like that. Grab some. And whatever extra you have. Alright, just cut it off. Now for good measure, so that I don't have these things pop up on me when I'm not, when I have everything covered, I just put a little bit of glue on there, grab another scrap, and I just kind of do a nice blanket of glue. That'll keep my push rod supports there from popping up. All right, on your boom, you're going to see a marking there. That marking is where these things go. You won't see it on camera, but you'll see it on your build. Take some glue there. I'm going to put it right down between those 2 lines. Just do my best to kind of straighten up. You'll see a line right here. That's where one of your holes is. I'm going to try to do my best to line up that at least one of the push rods for right there. Because, let's see right there, see it? Nice and lined up. This back one here, that should be lined up with this one. You don't want to crisscross them because you're going to put a lot of pressure on that servo, and that servo is going to pop on you. For extra measure, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on this front here. Try not to cover the holes so that because this part's going to get lifted a lot by the servo rods. I'm going to put some on the corner here. Put some on the corner here just to help. You don't need to, but I do it just to help. Okay, once again, if you want to, one of the hardest parts of this thing is right in here. So take 2 barbecue skewers, if you want to, and you just line them up right here and glue them down. I'm going to throw a bead of glue in the corner here. I'm going to throw a bead of glue in this corner here. And I'm going to nestle my barbecue skewer up against that side. And do the same thing on this end. That'll really shore up your guys' fuselage boom. Just kind of work that barbecue skewer in there. You can leave it like that. Now, I don't want to put my top piece, you can see it's all prepped. I don't want to put my top piece on yet because I need to put my electronics on, so this will be last. So we're going to hold off on that part. At this moment, you could take off your helping hands. And what I like to do for extra measure on this foam board piece too, you can leave it as is, it'll be fine. But I also like to throw a piece of packaging tape along that whole beam here. That'll really help shore that piece up. Okay, so I like to do this. I just kind of get a piece of tape that runs alongside this fuse here. And I get to the point where I got that, and then what I'll do here is I'll just kind of run with it. Work the middle if you can. Now some of you might not like having tape on the side, and it's up to you. Because it could look like this. Might not look as clean. But I'd rather be strong than sorry. Any of the excess stuff that comes over, just use the foam board as my cutting edge. And just run that tape. Cut that part right off. Do that for both sides. Now we're on to the tail section. Okay, now that our boom is cleaned, looks good. So now we're on our tail section. So same thing with the control surfaces. I did for the rudder already. That rudder sees a lot of play. So I'm going to throw a little bit of glue down the seam and just swipe it clean. Okay, that'll strengthen up that joint. All right, tail section. Fold it over, take your X-Acto knife. If you need to practice on a couple foam boards first, do it. Just run that thing all the way down. There you go, no holes on top. Work it a little bit. It's enough throw. Close it. Just like that. Too early. Okay, cool. All right. Now this next one, this actually goes down the middle. This one's kind of tricky because it actually goes down like that, which makes it kind of awkward to build these first. So I don't build this first. I'm gonna take this off. So I got my boom here. I'm not gonna glue my rudder down though. I'm just gonna use it as a guide. dry fit it first just to see how it goes. You can see how it goes like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my rudder as a guide to glue my elevator down first. Notice that goes in there, so it's pretty much everything after this has got a bunch of glue in it. So I'm going to throw glue here, especially down the corners. Okay, it's healthy bead of glue. I'm going to but I'm not doing the holes yet. Okay, and then I'm going to flatten that part down. Hold that. But I'm just using my rudder as a guide. And I'll hold this down and make sure it's nice and flat. So with it nice and glued down, I'm going to check my seams here. I'll actually just run a kind of like a safety bead along the side here. Just for good measure. Okay, now I should be able to remove my rudder. Right, so now I'm all nice and lined up. Now I'm going to take my rudder. I know that it dry fits right there. And when I did my markings too, it kind of shows some markings of where my rudder is. I'm going to throw some glue there. Throw some glue here. Okay, and I'm also going to just throw some on the sides as it goes through those holes. The key to this is to make sure that this thing is nice and straight. And if it's not nice and straight, don't stress too much because this next step is going to really help sure it up. So I'm going to make sure that my 90-degree tool is on there, and I'm going to let it sit. So you can see it on this side. Let my 90-degree tool sit right there and let it dry. Now with my tail nice and straight, I'm going to go ahead and just do my 45 gluing job on the sides here just to kind of sure up the build. Now I've already done this on the other side. Okay, now I'm still not done yet. So this is why I said if you're a little off on your 90 degree, don't stress too much because this next step is going to help you really lock in that piece. So right now we're looking nice and straight. I'm going to take 2 barbecue skewers. Okay, my first one, I'm going to run up through the bottom. You'll see these pilot holes here. Okay, I'm going to run up through the bottom. Okay, and then I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to barely put it onto this top one here. Just let it pierce it a little bit. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Take my barbecue skewer. This is going to support it in flight. Down a little bit and just get it to where it's just piercing the foam boards because it's going to kind of share the same hole. Alright, so you can see that I've already kind of pushed it over that way a little bit, so I'm going to actually have to lighten this one up. Okay. And I'll probably have to glue this one down first since my rudder is already starting to kind of wing that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this side first. I'm going to throw a little bit of glue down in the hole. And I'm going to place the barbecue skewer point inside. I'm just going to hold it right there. Once it's dried up, I'm going to go ahead and cinch down this side. Okay, while that part is drying, I'm going to do the next side. Alright, so now that I have these 2 barbecue skewers dried up and tightened up on here on the top, I can now move my rudder back and forth to get it nice and straight. So I'm going to start on one side, and I'm going to throw a little bit of glue here. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to eyeball it and just kind of release or add tension to the elevator to get this thing nice and straight. That's looking pretty good right there. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. So I'm just gonna let that dry. In fact, since they're both perpendicular, I'm gonna let them both dry at the same time. Now that I got my rudder is looking nice and straight. Now it might not look straight because of the rudder to you guys, but if I go this way, right, I'm nice and straight. Now if you're off a little bit, don't worry. This thing will still fly if you are slightly left or slightly right. But giving yourself a fighting chance for flight, you want to make sure that thing is nice and straight as possible. So with the tops now drying, I'm gonna look at the bottom. You'll see on the bottom here how much tension I had to put on one side or the other. So you see this side, I glued it down already. It's got a little bit of a barbecue skewer out, and then here we have this one. I just grab little nippers here, just cut off the excess there, and we're good to go. Cool. So once again, I'm not gonna put down my bottom plate yet. I'm gonna wait on that for the electronics. You'll see here we have our kind of our oh no board door. So if something happened with your servos, you can always just break those seals, and now you have complete access to this door. But that piece is going to cinch down just like this, all the way down to the bottom. Okay, but like I said, we're not ready for that yet. The boom now is in good shape. Where that boom goes, if you take your fuselage, it goes in the very bottom section. And what I did was, I just take a pencil or a pen, and I just beveled the inside of that entry just by flattening out the foam board. This will help you insert your fuselage boom together. So I'm just going to take this piece here and just bevel the sides. Okay. Now, as I go in here, nice easy fit. You're going to be able to slide that. I don't know if you can see this in here, but you're going to see your access hole here. I'm going to slide that all the way until you'll see it here, you'll see it. It'll start to line up to the front of it. Go, go, go until you have it lined up. That's as far as you want it to go in. Now, it will, you know, if you're a little bit after that, that's okay. If you're a little forward, that's okay too. But that's going to be your access point for that. So, there is your fuselage. Okay, your fuselage is almost complete, right? Complete on the build. Part of it, we still need to do electronics. Now, for your wing, for storage, I don't want this stuff falling around and getting, you know, disappearing. I'm gonna put some rubber bands on it just to do a test fit, just show you guys how that works. And what I did was, on the ends here, I just cut some little barbecue skewers, and I put them on the foam board ends. This is gonna help with the rubber bands. If you want to, you can also throw some tape on the front here on this leading edge. That will help some of the pressure on the rubber bands. You'll see here in a second what I mean. Okay, so this goes up to the back here. You take one rubber band, throw it on the front of your first barbecue skewer. Okay, and I'm gonna crisscross it. I'm gonna go across, underneath, and put it on that one. I'm gonna try to get it so that it's on that barbecue skewer. Same thing on the other side, wrap it around. Okay, once you have that, crisscross it, come across, put it on the other barbecue skewer. Okay, there you have your crisscross there. Then you go one more time across just the sides. Just like that. Like that. Now you've got that wing's not going off, and you've got yourself a fuselage, a plane that is now ready to be hung and moving on to the next steps. Okay, this is the start of our electronics. So we're going to start with the motor first. Your motor might already have the cross bearing backing already on it, but if it doesn't, make sure it has two sides. One side is flat, one side has the beveled screws. They're not perfectly square, so it only fits on one side. So you're going to find it so that it fits. Not that way. It fits just like that. So I'm going to take this, and this is a 2.0 millimeter. I'm going to go ahead and screw all these parts in. Proceed to go ahead and do all 4 holes. So now here's your pieces. You got 4 pieces. You've got your firewall itself. That's going to get glued on the front here. And then you've got your side arms that will kind of go on that side. So I'm just going to start with gluing this part down. You can use wood glue. You can use thinner glue. I don't really care. It still works just the same. Kind of pops in there. And when I do this, I'm just making sure that it's perpendicular, right? I don't want to glue it sideways. On wood, it should go pretty quick. So I'm going to go ahead and glue just a beam around the front here. Making sure that I'm still straight. There we go. Once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and put on my sidewalls. Alright, so now with your box completed, what I did was I went around all the corners and I just do a bead of glue around all the edges. That's going to sure up your build. Now of course you can use different glue, you can use super glue, but this will, for speed, the hot glue, this will do the trick and you can move on. Alright, next part. With my backing on my motor, I'm going to take, it doesn't have to be the black screws in your kit, they could be just simple smaller wood screws. You're going to take your motor and you're going to install it onto your firewall. Now, what's kind of cool is that this firewall has some openings there to put your wires underneath, so it can kind of protect it so they don't flare out. And it kind of gets your wires out of the way, which makes it kind of nice. So I'm going to go ahead and take this first piece here, and I'm going to screw in this first one here. Get started, and then the rest is going to be a piece of cake. You're going to go ahead, I'm not going to go all the way down, give myself some room to put the other 4 screws in, but go ahead and proceed to do that for all 4 screws. Alright, so I went ahead and tightened up each screw. Just make them loose at first and then you cinch them down. So now you got your power pod all set and it's ready to be inserted onto your aircraft. With your fuselage in front of you, you take your power pod and you're going to want to first dry fit it so you can get a feel for where it goes. This is so important, and you guys can really ruin your whole entire day if you don't pay attention to this step. You want this motor all the way up at the very top of this foam board piece here. And you want the side here, use these sidewalls as your guidance to keep the angle. So if you'll notice here, there is a prop angle that needs to happen. It can't be like this, right? You're gonna have the prop strike against your boom. You can't have it too much like this either, okay? Because if you do that, you're gonna have too much angle. So it has to be perfectly right there, flush, because this cut right here has the correct angle for your prop. So take this out. Go ahead and glue on both sides. I'm also going to throw a bead of glue on the top because I know that should touch it as well. Okay, slide that in. And then getting it so that it is flush with the top here. If I push on it a little bit, that's good too. I want it to be flush. Take my extra scrap here and just run to where it's nice and flush around the motor. And there you go. You've got your motor set, and we can move on to the inner electronics. So we got both our sides glued now. You could throw another bead of glue on the inside just to help strengthen this. This is also a very high use area. Some people like to take some glue and just kind of throw it on the edge here to strengthen these, because your nose cone goes on and off on this section a lot. So I just put a little bit of glue there. And I just run, not my finger because that would hurt and be crying. Just strengthen up that foam board so that you don't get any foam boards that kind of split away from, or the paper split away from the foam. All right, now to show you that there's no right or wrong way to build this thing, you could have easily put this on there already. For me, I'm gonna do it this way. Make sure I got a good healthy bead of glue around all edges, because sometimes you might get a board that might be a little warped. So you want it to be cinched down pretty good. These holes should line up. So put them right on the holes. That's going to be where you want to put them. So once I have that pretty well glued, I'm going to go ahead and put some pressure down on it. And there's your board. It's kind of nice because you're going to cinch in your battery straps. Your battery straps will destroy the foam board, so that's why we have the wood piece here. So when you guys look to design your planes, think about ways to strengthen your foam board. Doesn't matter which side is which. I'm just going to put them through here. Actually, change that up. Let's do this way. So I have these here. And then, for the most part, your batteries are going to be towards the front of the plane. Like that. Back on the other side. Shoot through. Other side. Through. Now before I glue those down, now that I have these here, I'm going to take my piece. This is what's going to help me go in the middle here. Throw some glue down. Making sure I'm staying centered here, because I don't want to like cover up holes if I need to make last minute adjustments. Now, if you don't have this Velcro, that's okay. Your strap downs have these rubber backings, and then they'll really cinch that battery down. But for just some extra measure, have that Velcro down. Put the softy on your battery. Put the softy on your batteries if it doesn't already have them, and that battery won't move. There you go. So your battery tray for flight controller piece is complete. So we got both our sides glued now. You could throw another bead of glue on the inside just to help strengthen this. This is also a very high use area. Some people like to take some glue and just kind of throw it on the edge here to strengthen these, because your nose cone goes on and off on this section a lot. So I just put a little bit of glue there. And I just run, not my finger because that would hurt and be crying. Just strengthen up that foam board so that you don't get any foam boards that kind of split away from, or the paper split away from the foam. All right, now to show you that there's no right or wrong way to build this thing, you could have easily put this on there already. for me, I'm going to do it this way. Make sure I got a good healthy bead of glue around all edges, because sometimes you might get a board that might be a little warped. So you want it to be cinched down pretty good. These holes should line up. So put them right on the holes. That's going to be where you want to put them. So once I have that pretty well glued, I'm going to go ahead and put some pressure down on it. And there's your board. It's kind of nice because you're going to cinch in your battery straps. Your battery straps will destroy the foam board, so that's why we have the wood piece here. So when you guys look to design your planes, think about ways to strengthen your foam board. Doesn't matter which side is which. I'm just going to put them through here. Actually, change that up. Let's do this way. So I have these here. And then, for the most part, your batteries are going to be towards the front of the plane. Like that. Back on the other side. Shoot them through. Other side. Through. And before I glue those down, now that I have these here, I'm going to take my piece. This is what's going to help me go in the middle here. Throw some glue down. Making sure I'm staying centered here, because I don't want to like cover up holes if I need to make last minute adjustments. Now, if you don't have this Velcro, that's okay. Your strap downs have these rubber backings, and then they'll really cinch that battery down. But for just some extra measure, have that Velcro down. Put the softy on your battery. Put the softy on your batteries if it doesn't already have them, and that battery won't move. There you go. So your battery tray for flight controller piece is complete.